Welcome back to Pleb Underground, Bitcoin only signal without the slop. I'm your host, Phil. Let's see what's going on today down the rabbit hole. All right, the stories we are tracking are Bitcoin miners, a public utility story. That's right. An interesting development out of Vancouver. We're also going to take a look, of course, guys, what would be a daily episode of Pleb Underground without more paper Bitcoin announcements? Phil, we just can't stop winning, right? We're not stopping to win. Yeah, we know. And we love winning. We're tired of winning, right? Just like Donald Trump said, we're totally tired of it. Another thing we're going to take a look at, Bill Miller's comments, right? For the people who don't know who Bill Miller is, he is the chief investment officer and the portfolio manager for his own value fund. But anyways, he knows a lot. He knows a lot about where money is and where it's going and how we are going to get a piece of it. So, of course, we want to hear Bill Miller's comments as well, right? Guess what? Goldman Sachs is super excited about crypto. What a surprise. What a surprise that Goldman Sachs is excited about crypto. And of course, they see it as the next big gold rush. Spoiler, though, for those of us that are Bitcoiners, the gold rush they see is obviously not in Bitcoin. You can guess it, right? It's in stablecoins. Anyways, we're going to take a look at that and all of those stories. But first, you guys know the deal. You know the deal. Going to give some love to the Pleb Underground sponsor. We're going to be right back, and then we're going to dive into all the fun that's happening.
Pleb Underground is sponsored by Archimedes Emporium. Discover the pinnacle of precision engineering, starting with their Bitcoin logo wall clock, meticulously machined in Maine from a solid block of aerospace-grade aluminum, ensuring unparalleled durability and performance. Experience the difference of a product made without compromise. Head on over to Archimedes Emporium.
Okay, so let's dive right into it. First, obviously we're talking about paper Bitcoin. We're going to start off with the paper Bitcoin stuff. Just get it out of the way, right? It's like the Band-Aid. You rip off the Band-Aid. So, Goobit Group, BTCX, purchased their first 10.63 BTC. They target 210 with their Bitcoin treasury strategy. You know, I know it's gonna maybe it sounds a little naive, but I feel like when I see these kind of smaller stacks, I feel like they're kind of doing it less for the publicity of being a Bitcoin treasury company and more for the fact that they actually are trying to store their melting ice cube of dollars. I don't know. Anyways, just, naive and hopeful, right? Hopeful that that's what they're doing, the little guys. Anyways, good for Goobit. H100, we're all aware of this one. I believe this is the one that Adam Bach is involved in. I mean, he's also involved with SEPO as well, right? But yeah, H100 Group purchased 102.19 Bitcoin. Now has a total of 911 Bitcoin. Good job. But this is, to me, I mean, again, right? This is an actual... these guys are actually looking to be a treasury company, right? So I always have to, I can't help it, right? I try to pay attention to figure out, all right, which ones are actually building a real business and storing their value in Bitcoin, and which ones are just here to, talk about Bitcoin, and hopefully people buy their shares with the idea that the shares are going to go up because they hold Bitcoin. Anyways, all right. So that does it for the little treasury companies. And moving on, guys, we are going to take a look at a quick clip with Bill Miller. Get ready, guys. Get ready. Right? Like, the title wasn't just for clickbait. We're getting trillions, right around the corner.
Trillion worth of assets globally in retirement accounts with zero allocation right now to digital assets.
Zero.
Every 1% allocation from that 60 trillion adds $30,000 to Bitcoin's price. And so from my perspective, a 2% allocation would be conservative when you consider that all of those assets are currently in a monetary framework whose authorities have told you they want to depreciate it by 2% a year. So why wouldn't those accounts stake 2% of everything denominated in a melting ice cube and stick it in another protocol altogether. So again, that alone would take us to Bitcoin at 175K, or up more than 50% from here. We still think we are incredibly early. We're still seeing early signs of institutional adoption. You look at Norges, the world's largest sovereign wealth fund, almost $2 trillion in assets, has been increasing its exposure to Bitcoin digital assets. It's still a rounding error for them. But when the world started,
what are Bitcoin digital assets? I know what Bitcoin is, obviously, right? We know what Bitcoin is. We know what the Bitcoin network is. What are Bitcoin digital assets exactly? I'm pretty sure it's shitcoins. I'm pretty sure he's talking about stable coins. Anyways, it's okay. It's Bitcoin. They love Bitcoin.
Largest sovereign wealth fund, the world's largest endowment in Harvard is now buying Bitcoin, starts to do it. That opens up the door for all the other relevant parties, other endowments, other sovereign wealth funds to do this in a very interesting way. So there are.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, look, obviously, right? It's good news, right? Lots of attention around the space. You know, for the people that think the bull run is over, that's it. You know, 113K, Bitcoin's dead. This is nothing. This is absolutely nothing. In my eyes, everything is still intact. The news is moving along totally the way it has in previous cycles. Look. Let's just see what we actually get, right? I have been listening to these stories from bankers and from these mutual fund, managers and stuff like that since 2017, right? And there's Bitcoiners who have been here longer than I have, who have been listening to these stories even longer, okay? And they talk about 60 trillion, and if just a small fraction of that, look, the wheels turn slowly. It's not to say this money isn't going to come into the space. It absolutely will. But it's going to take time. The other piece of the story is, unfortunately, he's calling it Bitcoin digital assets. So to me, that's a slip, right? He's calling them digital assets because he's really talking about stable coins and the products that they can create based off of essentially borrowing the credibility from Bitcoin. Again, it's just my personal opinion. Okay. Let's move on here to the next story. What do we got over here? Let's see. Okay, we're gonna take a look at the Goldman Sachs. Right, Goldman Sachs is super excited as well. Yeah, we're not really surprised. Goldman Sachs, right? They're on the verge of a stablecoin gold rush, not a Bitcoin gold rush, stablecoin gold rush, of course. Because that's the only thing they can control. They can't do anything with they can't do anything with Bitcoin, right? Like you're watching what is happening with Bitcoin right now, right? You got guys like Michael Saylor, right? 630,000 Bitcoin creating all of these derivative products. And then he goes and taps his ATM, for more money to buy more Bitcoin, and everybody's crying. He doesn't make any money. Okay. Like, I'm sorry, his business doesn't have free cash flow, which means he only has a certain limited set of tools that he can use to continue to purchase Bitcoin. Anyways, it's not about Michael Saylor. It's about this kind of stuff. I'm just saying, these guys, these institutions, they know. Why bother using Bitcoin when they can just create something out of absolutely nothing? Okay? Risk even less and just dump as many bags and make as much money off of transaction fees as possible. And they own it all, right? They own the farm. They own the land. They are the gatekeepers. Okay, I'll stop. Anyways, so let's take a look at this potential side because, of course, guys, breaking news, right? Trillions of dollars. And here it is. The potential total market for stable coins is in the trillions. Visa sizes the addressable market for payments at approximately $240 trillion in annual payment volume. And the key of this whole thing is the annual payment volume. That's all this is about. Okay. And if you understand that, then you understand why companies like Visa and MasterCard have the most powerful moats in the fiat space. They don't issue debt. They own the networks. They own the branding. They make money off of every single transaction. Oh, but Phil, fiat's being printed forever. Yeah, it is. And guess what? A good portion of that fiat flows through their networks. Love them or hate them, in the fiat game, Visa and MasterCard, they've destroyed everyone else. Anyways, but yeah, this is what it's all about, right? And believe me, if you think for a second that institutions like Goldman Sachs aren't seeing all of that, they are, and they want a piece of the Visa and MasterCard networks, even though Visa and MasterCard are spinouts from the banks. Anyways, I digress. This isn't a Visa and MasterCard show. This is about Goldman Sachs. All right, next up for Goldman, let's see here. So they're at the beginning, right? We're at the beginning of the stable coin gold rush. Stable coins are currently a $271 billion global market. And again, here's the signal. We see $77 billion of growth in USDC. I'm not talking about Bitcoin. I'm not talking about Tether. I'm not talking about any other, specifically USDC, right? And of course, they know how to work this. Yeah, exactly, Pranav. We are all going to make it, but maybe not the shitcoiners. I'm not so sure about the shitcoiners unless they start hodling Bitcoin. Anyway, that's just my own bias. Okay. Anyway, so that was So Goldman Sachs excited about stable coins. I don't think we are really surprised by any of this. I really don't. Now, moving on to the big story, right? For me, the big story out of Canada, that's two big stories, 2 days in a row out of Canada. What are we looking at? In case you didn't hear about this, right? It's Kitsilano Pool, I believe it is. I probably destroyed the name. No, I didn't. Kitsilano Pool is Vancouver's only saltwater swimming pool. The outdoor pool is located near the beach, cafes, and neighborhood of Kitsilano. And that's right. Could this gigantic pool be heated with Bitcoin mining? And I know it's like, Phil gives a shit about a pool. Wait, pretty big pool. Let's take a look at this. Take a look at this report.
Miners are essentially computers, and the heat generated from them could be used to heat Kit's Pool for use all year round, adding it could even make the city money.
Mining for Bitcoin would not only pay for the energy used to heat the pool, but there would be extra Bitcoin that could be then additionally sold to pay for services, to pay for lifeguards, to pay for more operational hours, to pay for swimming lessons. In fact, it would be the case that the Bitcoin mining facility at Kit's Pool would probably make the city maybe $1 million a year in profit.
Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim is a fan of the idea. He was in the audience and spoke later in the day about his push to integrate Bitcoin into the city of Vancouver's finances. A motion passed by council last year directed staff to explore how the city could accept taxes and fees in the cryptocurrency and even convert some of the city's reserves into it. That report is due back sometime in the fall.
All right. Well, we are going to be looking out for that report. I find it interesting when Bitcoiners explain that in this particular case, right, the city could be making $1 million profit. I think that some of us sometimes, I know for myself, I go through this mental gymnastics sometimes. We forget that governments don't make profit. They just spend debt. So it's such a foreign idea that wait a second, we can actually be profitable. Like the closest thing I've ever seen is a balanced budget, so to speak, right? But otherwise, all they do is just spend because it comes out of the public. This money isn't, there's no real world attachment to politicians with money. They just spend. So look, I think that that's pretty interesting. Does this lead us in the direction where more, not just governments, but also oil refineries, energy producers, do they really start to see that Bitcoin, specifically Bitcoin mining, can be very useful as a public utility? Remember, there's nothing wrong with your city, your town, or any of that stuff actually making a profit and in turn taking that profit and making the lives of their constituents better. It seems like such a foreign idea, but it seems to me that this was happening at some point in the not too distant past, and somehow because of the broken money, it's all just kind of gone away. Anyways, I'm happy for them. I'm happy for them up in Vancouver. I'm happy for them what they're doing with the pool. I think that these examples, right, they may seem like nothing burgers, but you know what? This is how it works, right? Slowly at first, and then all of a sudden. You know, it's the same thing as like the drop in the bucket, right? At some point, the drop in the bucket fills the bucket, and you know, we're getting there. Well, guys, that's going to do it for us for today. Tomorrow, though, I've got an awesome interview with Mike Tidwell. Right, he is the organizer of TabConf, the Technical Atlanta Bitcoin Conference, where Phil is actually going to leave his couch. I don't know why I'm referring to myself in the third person. Nobody cares. I'm going to be leaving the couch and I'm going to be heading over there. And we're going to be doing the news desk, myself and Ulrich. We're going to be doing the news desk. I know that I believe Walton, right? You guys remember Walton? Walton's going to be doing emceeing. I believe he represents Roxham TV now. So he's going to be emceeing on the main stage from what I understood. It should be a great time. I'll put a link to the TabConf stuff in the show notes if you guys are interested. But either way, I'm going to have Mike Tidwell on the show tomorrow. He's going to explain everything that's going on at TabConf. And I'm super excited to have that chat. And I'm also very curious to see what types of conversations they have lined up for all of us plebs at TabConf. Anyways, guys, that is going to do it for us, for me today. And I will catch you all tomorrow with that amazing interview. Have a great rest of the day. Peace.